The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Helpline session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday morning helpline session, our open forum free-for-all, where we can talk about anything you like, any topic of discussion, any questions you have, anybody who wants to do role-playing, anybody who has questions about any of their ads. Also want to remind everyone that, as always, coming up on Thursday, we're going to do our role play session. Craig and I are going to role play with you, and that's always a lot of fun and really helpful. And we'll spend a better part of an hour and a half doing that on Thursday. And on Friday is our ad clinic session. So send in any ads that you have that you'd like us to take a look at, whether they're working well or not. We will take a look at them. The more we have, the better and the happier we are. Okay, so having said that, we can talk about anything you want. You are going to decide what questions are answered, what topics of conversation we're going to discuss, whether you want to talk about some of the USPs, setting up some of the systems, anything to do with lead generation or lead conversion. The sky's the limit. We could talk about anything. You just have to enter your topic or your question into the chat, or if you have a working mic, we can do it that way as well. And Andrew, I think you've been monitoring that as we've been getting started here. So why don't we do that on this lovely January 25th, Monday morning?
Yes, and I have received some emails over the weekend, so I'm going to start with those. The first is from Alexandra. She says, I'm a high I and I need advice on how to use my D. I tried using it and realized I have no clue how to use it on purpose and when to use it. Are there any examples of how it looks like when high I personality uses their D instead of I?
Yes, well, this is a pretty easy one. But I find this really helpful for myself because Alexandra and I are the same. I don't have very much D. I've got a lot of I, and I have almost no C. But what you need to do is be aware. See, the personality test that Dr. Marsden invented, what it's suggesting is that everybody is made up of all four of the personality types. So what the test is figuring out, though, is dominance. So for you, your dominant characteristic is a high I. All right, now the high I is the gregarious, outspoken. They're a talker. They're very communicative. Those are the typical traits. They're flashy, or if you're going to be flashy, you're probably a high I, that kind of thing. It's very important that you're liked, and it's easy to like a high I as well because they're easy to talk to, easy to get along with. That's the typical trait of the high I. Now, the downside of that is that if you're speaking to another personality type that is not a high I, if your high I takes over and you do not, what we like to call in the business, shut up, then what happens is other personality types can be off-put by overly explaining and overly talking and without getting down to or moving on in the conversation or in the process. So here's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to recognize you first and foremost. Before you recognize who they are, you need to recognize you. You've recognized your high I, and the high I maybe talks too much, maybe talks when it isn't necessary to talk anymore. And so what you want to do is what we like to call dial up your D. So that means you either have a lot of D or you have very little D, but the point is you need to dial up what D you have in your personality type, because what the D is going to do is it's going to essentially, for lack of better words, it's going to allow you to close. Whether that's closing for an appointment over the phone, whether it's closing to get a contract signed, it's the close. Whether it's the close that says, we're not going to spend any more time looking at this property because it's clearly not what you want. It's the high D that does what the high I would consider to be the uncomfortable job of saying, all right, here's where we now do this. We go from doing what we're doing to this. We need to move on. We need to make a decision. We need to leave. We need to whatever. That's the high D. So if you are a high D, well, that's easy to do. And of course, the danger is you can sometimes do it too soon or too abruptly or too abrasively. But if you're the high I, you want to be liked. Now, so really think about that. If your desire is to be liked, and now you have to ask somebody to make a decision, we find that uncomfortable. The natural high I would rather talk to make it more comfortable. The high D says, I don't need to do that. Let's just cut to the chase. So the best approach to take is you need to dial up your D when you need to have those decisions made, when you need to move on. Dial up your D. Now, the worst case scenario is two I's together. So you're a high I, Alexandra. You're with a high I type personality. Now the two of you are most content to talk. You have to dial up your D to get to the decision or to move on. Whatever it is, you got to move on. Otherwise, you'll have 40-minute conversations over the phone. You'll sit and look at a house for an hour and a half that is of no interest to your buyer client. Whatever the situation might be. So this is the approach: is understand yourself, dial up your D, and of course that goes with every other personality type as well. Is being self-aware of your traits that, although they might be strengths, they can also be weaknesses as well. And for the high I, dialing up the D is definitely a must to get somewhere. So glad you asked that. I need to remind myself of that every once in a while. And it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this, and I'm kind of going on and on about this, and that's pretty typical of the high I. There you go. So not only did I answer the question, but I demonstrated what the high I might do. Was that funny, Andrea, or no?
It was. Good job. Very thorough.
Did you no? You didn't? No.
Okay, our next
All right, what do we got next?
We have Ellen, and this was submitted for our role play last week, but we didn't get to it, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it now. It says, please give us some verbiage for situations where we only have the caller's phone number. They called the hotline for a particular report but did not leave a message, and the reverse lookup does not give an address.
Well, let me first of all suggest that is not an A lead. Okay, that is not an A lead. That is really not who we're looking for. So I'm not going to dissuade you from following up with that prospect. What I am going to suggest, though, is that prospect would certainly be in the B category after somebody that requested information. So I want you to consider this. The script says, the reason I'm calling is because you requested information, whatever that was, and I wanted to follow up with you and let you know that I've prepared and sent it. Is that okay? So here's the problem. If the prospect called into your hotline and they didn't request the information because they hung up, then if you call them and say, I'm calling because you requested, right away they would stop you and say, I didn't request Jack, nothing. I didn't request anything. So you understand the difference here is that the premise of our phone call is we're only following up with prospects because they wanted something from us. We're not calling because we want something from you. We're calling because you wanted something from us. You requested a list of properties or a report on my hotline. So I'm calling to let you know I received your request, prepared it, and sent it out. I hope that's okay. Right? So now all of a sudden we're calling someone and say, hey, I'm calling because although you didn't request any information from me, you hung up before you requested it, I did get a phone number from you, so I'm calling to see if I can help you. Just understand it isn't the same thing. Okay, it isn't the same thing. So what we have to do is, if you're going to follow up with a prospect like that, you've got to massage the introduction, which is the reason that you're calling, because you're going to have to adjust it. And you're going to have to call and say something along these lines. What was the questioner's name, Andrea?
It was Ellen.
Ellen, okay. So we would call and say, oh, hi, Ellen. It's James calling with Craig Proctor's office at Remax Omega. Ellen, the reason I'm calling is because I noticed that yesterday you had called into our real estate hotline looking for information on a costly home seller report. And I just wanted to let you know that we have additional material that might be helpful to you as well. By the way, Ellen, are you considering making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? In other words, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to let Ellen know that the reason I'm calling is because Ellen called into my real estate hotline looking for information in regards to a report or whatever the reason was she called. But I'm not going to say that you asked for it because you didn't, nor am I going to say I sent it to you because I didn't. What I'm going to say is something along the lines of, I recognize you called in looking for that information. We have additional information that you might find helpful as well, Ellen. But then before anything, I say, by the way, are you thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? Right into that. All we're doing with the introduction is we're giving them a reason why we're calling. And the reason can't be because I'm a telemarketer cold calling. It has to be a real reason, a viable reason that makes sense. And so I'm trying to make the most viable, sensible reason for calling Ellen. And if Ellen called into my hotline and hung up, but I have a phone number, I can call and I can at least say, hey, you called into my real estate hotline yesterday looking for information on costly home seller mistakes. I wanted to let you know I've got a lot of great literature and information that would be helpful to you. By the way, are you thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? Hoping that by describing the reason that I'm calling, it will allow Ellen, the prospect, to listen and say, oh, okay, that's why they're calling me. Now, the worst case scenario, I suppose they could say is, how did you get this phone number? Oh, well, when you called into my hotline, it has a call display and it captures all of the callers that call in. What I like to do as a courtesy is follow up with you, make sure you got any information that you may have requested, and offer you more and perhaps even better information that might be able to help you moving forward. Are you thinking about making a move in the next little while? Or are you looking for a property? Like, you answer a question and then you ask a question, and now you're in the script. But you must agree that that makes sense of why I'm calling. And that's all I'm looking for is I've got to make sense of why I'm calling somebody, or they're going to think of you as a telemarketer and they're just going to hang up. Anyway, so give that a shot. But again, I would suggest that that's a B lead. You really want the A leads are the ones that request information. A B lead is somebody that you have contact details for, but they didn't request anything. They left before they did that. So you're going to have to massage the intro a little bit and then jump into the script. Hope that helps.
We have a few hands raised, so I thought we'd take an audio question. We have John Brackett. Your line is open.
All right.
Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I appreciate you asking. James, here's my question. I'm working on building out some activity plans.
Okay.
And it's my understanding that there were going to be some of those plans available through Sync. But when I inquire with them, they refer me back to the Craig Proctor program. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I don't want to make the investment in one, if I'm already in the other.
Okay, well, I mean, so we have activity plans. Now, we have activity plans that happen to be constructed for Agent Office because, of course, the contact management system that Craig used was not Commissions Inc. It was Agent Office. Now, but so here's what you're going to do. You're going to take the activity plans from the website, the coaching website, which you'll find in the file library, and you're going to take those plans and you're going to apply them. If you're using Sync as your contact management system, then you're going to apply those plans in Sync. Now, here's what I find hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that of all of the coaches and Platinum members, Todd, everyone that is using Commissions Inc., that already hasn't been done. So here's what I would like to do. I would like to have a conversation with Todd Walters about this. To find out what the other students who are using Commissions Inc. are doing with their user plans, with their activity plans, using the contact management system through Sync, and find out if that might be more helpful. In other words, I don't want you to go through a whole bunch of work that has already been done and could be just plugged in. And exactly. As I'm sitting here, I'm almost certain that that's what you'd be doing. So do me a favor, send me an email about this, and I will get Todd involved, and we'll get it right from the horse's mouth and figure out what you ought to do.
Okay, James, one quick question. What email should I use? Is it the one on the CP website or?
James@craigproctor.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Our next.
So, and by the way, let me just take 2 seconds to elaborate a little bit on that. So, if you look under the file library, and it's probably in a bunch of different locations as well. Andrea would be really good at finding stuff like that. But the activity plans, you know, regardless of what it's for a prospect, for a buyer client, for an after closing, you know, past client, any category that you would put a human being who is in your database, there's a plan that you attach to that particular person, whether they're an existing client, a past client, a prospect, a sphere of influence, whoever that human being is, you can take that human being and apply different plans to that person. Maybe it's a follow-up plan because they're a down-the-road prospect. Maybe it's a stay-in-touch plan because they're not a prospect, but they're somebody who, you know, raised their hand weeks ago, months ago. Whoever that person is, we can attach plans to them that are appropriate for that person. The idea is you want to have all of these plans already built in to the contact management system, the database, CRM that you're using. Now, if you're using Agent Office, if you're using Wise Agent, if you're using Sync, Commission Sync, okay, here's what Craig says. He doesn't care what contact management system you use. He cares that you use a contact management system. That's what matters. It's that you use one, not which one you're using. So bear that in mind, and you want to build out these plans within the contact management system so that when you have a contact, you can apply whatever plan to that contact, and automatically they don't fall through the cracks and the right things happen. You can always take a contact in your contact management system and you can disengage one plan and then add a new plan, right? Somebody went from a prospect to a client, right? You were following up with a buyer plan, with a follow-up plan for a buyer prospect. You booked an appointment with them. You got them signed to a buyer contract. Now you're going to discontinue the follow-up plan and you're going to attach them to the buyer client plan, which does things like this. Have you gotten them pre-qualified? Is there a contact on your daytimer to call them a minimum of every 90 days, you know, or before? You know, but that's a minimum requirement. So all of these plans are built out, and all you have to do is take them and apply them yourself, which is an absolute must. Otherwise, you know, it's going to fall through the cracks. Too much is going to fall through the cracks. All right. Sorry, Andrea. Keep going.
We have Dharmendra with a question. Your line is open.
Hello.
Hey, Dharmendra. How you doing?
I'm good, James. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
James, I have questions. I'm preparing for the referral programs, and
Okay.
I'm thinking that I can use that concept that was mentioned during the Platinum, you know, boot camp, that donating certain portion of each referred sale to any particular organizations. Because I'm looking right now, a couple charities that I'm thinking that I could use. Now, my question is, should I communicate a percentage of sale or a portion, or how do I communicate to leverage those people that I know in my community, with a personal contact, with different groups that I'm associated with, and, you know, even the those peoples in the database? What is the better way to leverage?
Well, obviously the best thing to do is to start from the least expensive and then work from there. So the least expensive is just from the cheapest way to leverage something like that is in your listing presentation. You know, in your presentations, to be able to say, you know, $500 of the proceeds of every sale go towards, you know, Wounded Warrior Project or whatever the charity might be. Because it's free to communicate with the words that come out of your mouth. So that's an easy one.
Right.
What you should also have is you should have certificates, and they are essentially referral certificates that say, essentially something along the lines of, if you know somebody who's thinking of buying or selling, $500 of the proceeds of every real estate transaction goes towards X charity, Wounded Warrior, or whatever it might be. All right, so you're communicating that, and it's free to do that. Now, here's what I'm confused by.
Mm-hmm.
Are you referring to how you're going to get that message into the hands of organizations, or I'm a little confused as to what you plan on doing with this message?
Okay, so many different community organizations that I'm partly involved in, and many people. So basically, I wanted to pass the message. Number one, that I'm doing active real estate, and number two, if you refer me, then I would like to donate portion of the income that I received to the charity. So not necessarily those people that I'm going for the listing presentation or buyer presentation, but those.
But these organizations,
I mean, those people that I know, basically. Let's put it this way.
Okay, well, let me give you. Do they have a newsletter? Do these organizations have some kind of a newsletter that their membership, or that would give you some visibility in an offer like this? Does that exist?
Yeah, that I have to check it. I'm not 100% sure whether every organization have, but that's a good point that I could certainly look into that.
How about this? Does the organization have an email database or an email newsletter that they send out? Because in that you could include a message as well, right? That would be another way you could get the message out. But they must have some literature. They must do something along those lines.
Right.
Now, are you involved with these different organizations?
A couple organizations, yes, I'm involved, and a few other organizations that I know personally, those people that are managing the organization. And many of the people from that, they also knows me, but obviously I haven't done business with any of them, even though they know because.
Really, what would work the best is, I don't know what these organizations do, but obviously if you were to select a charity that is associated with the organization, that would work a whole lot better. Like, for example, if you donated $500 to the Red Cross and the organization that you're targeting is the Red Cross, it stands to reason that you'd get a lot more traction saying, hey, for everybody through the Red Cross that completes a real estate transaction, $500 gets donated to the Red Cross. Now all of a sudden, that's called WIFM. So you got to be thinking like that. The organization has to have a benefit attached to this charitable donation, and if they don't, I mean, they're not. There wouldn't be the impetus to do this as much as if there was a win for them. So that's pretty obvious, but.
And is it better to mention the amount, or it's just a portion of the sale?
I would make it a fixed amount.
Fixed amount? Okay, for each sale.
Make it a fixed amount. Whether that's a few $100, whatever it is, make it a fixed amount for every transaction. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Don't get into a portion or a percentage. None of that. Just as simple as it can possibly be stated. It will be much more believable. Okay, it needs to be believable and clear.
Right. Is it good to mention, say, for example, $5,000 or $10,000 for 2016 that I'm going to donate?
I think that's way too much money. That would be way too much money to donate per transaction.
No, not per transaction. This is I'm talking about like for 2016. Say that my goal is to donate $10,000 to this charity organizations, and for that reason, I'm asking you for a referral so that I can,
On your screen, just to interrupt really quickly, there is a sample referral offer for leveraging a worthy cause that Todd has put up on our coaching site that you can use as a reference.
This is so it's exactly what you've just been saying. Here's the difference, though. What you're looking at is a marketing letter. Okay, so this is a marketing letter. This is very different from a marketing message, like you would have if there was like some kind of a newsletter that the organization sends out. No one's reading a letter in an ad. However, this is the letter that would go to the organization explaining why you're doing this and what the goal is and how it's going to work and why they would get involved in this. All right, so yeah, I like that a lot. But as far as stating the offer, the offer is the offer. I'm going to donate $500 of every real estate transaction to this cause, this charity, this whatever.
Okay. So specifically for individual transactions, it's better to say how much from the individual transactions to clarify that.
It makes it easy to understand and believable. Remember this, the confused mind does nothing. So if you make this confusing and not crystal clear and easy, it loses its meaning. It's the whole point of you doing this. Keep it simple and straightforward and easy to understand, and it'll have traction.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right, and Andrea, whereabouts on the site did you find this?
I went to the file library and I typed in referral. And all of the referral type marketing that we provide to use as a reference is there. And it's just sample worthy cause referral offers, ID number 1007.
Fantastic. Thank you, Drea.
Okay, our next question, I'll go back to a couple of our chats, and it's from Michelle. It says, if someone sends you a phony phone number, should you still send them the information?
Well, if you have everything else, in other words, so what I'm picturing here is they included all of their accurate information. They just didn't include an accurate phone number. If you said, well, they didn't include a name, they didn't include an address, they included an accurate email, but a bogus phone number. So let me get this straight. Everything they sent you was incorrect except for an email address, then no, I wouldn't. Here's why. We cannot find a phone number with an email address. So what you'd need to do is you need to email them back with the link directly back to the landing page, and what you need to write in the email is, please accurately complete the request form so that your information can be sent out, can be processed and sent to you. And there's a link, click here. When they click on the link, it takes them right back to the page, only this time, don't put in Charlie Brown. And that's all you can do, because here's the thing, is if all we have is an email address, you can't find a phone number. But if they put in an accurate address, we can look up the address. Look up the address in a directory, online, white pages, there's all kinds of them, and get a phone number attached to that address, and then you can call the phone number. And you can say, hey, I got a request for a list of whatever. And the worst they can say is, how'd you get my phone number? Well, the phone book. That's the answer is, I got your number in a phone book. By the way, you're thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months. Now, a lot of times you're going to get just an email, and that's just not a lead. It's not a lead. A lead is a prospect that you can get a phone number and follow up with. So that is what I suggest. But if they leave everything except for a phone number, yes, the answer is you should send them the information. You should get a phone number, and you should call them. All right, good question.
Okay, we have a question now via chat that says, what can we offer to people who are already getting listings from our IDX system?
Would you also be interested in getting updates every time a property comes on the market available for sale that you might not get through the website service? For example, often distress sales, bank foreclosures, unclaimed properties, private listings, pocket listings from other realtors in the marketplace are available. And these properties, probates, another example, a family member, a parent dies, for example, these often represent excellent deals, and they're not commonly found on MLS or available on various websites, but they may represent the absolute perfect deal for what you and your family are looking for. Would you also be interested in receiving those properties every day that they come on the market as well? I dare you to try to say no to that. And everybody would say, yeah, that makes tons of sense. Yeah, I'd also like those. Okay. Well, in addition, I want you to know that instead of every day you going onto the website and searching for properties, sometimes you're going to get busy and you're just not going to do it. And that day, the perfect property may come available. So here's what I propose. I can set you up to automatically receive all of the properties, including the great deals, by email. So every day, you check your email inbox, and any properties that are available that match what you and your family are looking for, they're sitting in your email inbox, and all you have to do is click on them. So that way, when you're really busy, when you forget, you don't have to worry about missing out on the perfect property. You know it'll be sitting there in your email inbox, and you can look at it at your convenience. And of course, the best part, it's free. There's no obligation to buy anything. Would you like me to get you set up on that right away? They say, sure, yeah, that does sound good. Great. When have you got 15, 20 minutes so that we can sit down and I can take down your exact criteria so we can do a good job for you? What would you prefer? Days, evenings, weekends? Remember, it's free. There's no obligation. When would be a good time? And we book a time, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, good question.
Our next question comes from Lisa Nash, and she's raised her hand. Lisa, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you, Lisa?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent.
Good. My question is, I wanted to role play. I had a call come in from a site called Zillow. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it basically, people search for properties, and then when they click on a property, our landing page will come up with my information on it. So they immediately assume that I'm the listing agent. But what happened is I started going through the universal callback script, and when I got to the part about do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right, she had said yes, and I said, well, have you 100% committed to that realtor? And she said, no, I haven't signed anything. So I said, well, not all agents are the same, and I'd love to meet with you to show you how we do things differently, and then I can also show you that property as well. So we set up a time to meet, and then she immediately went into saying, but I don't want to sign anything, and sort of started getting a little bit, of pushback. And so
you have to say you do not have to sign anything. You do not have to sign anything.
I ended up kind of going, but I'm sure I handled it totally incorrectly, and I just want to know what I should have said, because basically we sort of went a bit back and forth.
Okay, so let's do a role play. We're going to do two role plays here. One is going to be over the phone, and the other is going to be face-to-face. So here's the role play over the phone. I say this to you. I say, Lisa, you are not obligated to sign anything. I will never charge you any money. Okay, there is no cost or obligation at all. I want to have a good understanding of what you're looking for, and I appreciate that you're willing to sit down with me and see how I might be able to help you differently than the realtor, that you're thinking of right now. We book the appointment. You say, okay, great. Bob's your uncle. We set the appointment. All right, now, you're at the appointment with me right now, and I've just gone through the buyer presentation, and now I've pulled out the VIP buyer agreement, and you're scratching your head going, are you a psycho? You told me I don't have to sign anything, right?
Right.
Now, okay, so there's two things here. Number one, you don't have to sign it, okay? You don't have to. It just means if you don't sign it, you don't want to hire me. You want to use your friend. That's cool. You don't have to sign it. But I'm going to do better than that. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, hey, Lisa, when we talked on the phone, I made it very clear that you don't have to sign anything. Okay, and so I want to make sure that you understand how this process works. Although you do need to hire me in order for me to represent you, I also want you to understand that the fear, the stigmatism that goes along with signing something is that you're obligating yourself to something. So here's what I want to give you first, okay, before we get into that. This is my cancellation guarantee. And what it says is this, in writing, if at any point in time from this second forward you feel that I'm not doing the job that you anticipated I would do, this cancellation guarantee outlines in writing that there is absolutely no penalty whatsoever in canceling our agreement anytime you want to. You are never, ever stuck using a realtor that you don't like or that you don't want to use. The onus is on me every day to prove that I'm doing a better job than you even anticipated. So I want you to have this for your peace of mind. There it is in writing, and you can take a look at it and see that it outlines everything that I've just mentioned. Because if we are to move forward, you need to hire me. But I don't want the stigmatism attached with you hiring me as you're stuck with someone that may not turn out to be the realtor that you anticipated. And I know that's not going to be the case. So here's the cancellation guarantee. Lisa, does that sound fair to you?
Yes. No, that's really good. I wish I had thought to say that, but I didn't.
But what you want to do is the time to talk about that is at the appointment.
Yeah.
Is at the appointment. Over the phone, the answer is this. It's free, and you don't have to sign anything. Like, you don't have to. There aren't going to be armed guards there with guns saying you need to sign this right now or else. You don't have to breathe if you don't want to. No one's going to make you. So it's true, they don't have to sign anything. Now, of course, when they meet with you and you take them to the buyer presentation, the explanation is simply this. Look, for me to represent you instead of another realtor, you need to hire me. Now, there's no cost associated with that. You're certainly not obligated to buy anything. However, you do need to hire me. But I know that you and I spoke over the phone, and I told you that you don't have to sign anything. You're not obligated to sign anything. So here's what I want to do, and here's what I meant by that. This is my cancellation guarantee. Here's what it means. Here's how it protects you. Here's how it completely diffuses any fear that you have of hiring me. And now you've addressed it head on. Now the prospect looks at that and says, that makes perfect sense. Right,
yeah,
so,
no, that totally makes sense, because what I knew I was doing the wrong thing, and I ended up we didn't end up meeting, and I knew that was totally ridiculous, but I sort of got it almost became like a
because
back
here's the
and
thing
forth.
is, over the phone, what if over the phone they think I have to sign something, it means they have literally no reason whatsoever why they would want to sign it, because you haven't given them the presentation.
Right.
It'd be like this. I want a job. So I call an employer who's offering jobs, and I say to the employer, hey, listen, I know you're setting up interviews so that you can determine why you would want to hire me, but here's the deal. I don't want to meet with you. I don't want to explain to you why you should hire me. I just want to know right now over the phone, will you hire me?
Right. Right.
And the employer's like, okay, well, in that case, that's easy. No. Right. No.
Yeah. No, that totally. I appreciate that. That helps a lot. So, well, on another note, the good thing is, after that, we did go on a buyer's consult, and we did go through the buyer's presentation, the Craig Proctor one, and we did get a BRA signed for 6 months. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, I was going to say, that. Just putting aside that particular circumstance, the trump card, the left bower of any buyer presentation objection is, when all is said and done, the cancellation guarantee trumps all concerns. It really does. I want to think about it. That's a really good idea. You know what? I think you should think about it tonight. I think you should actually think about it tomorrow night and next week and next month as well. I want you to think about it every night. Am I the best realtor to represent you in helping you find the home that you're looking for? Am I the realtor to help you negotiate? And you know what? Right now, before we get started, maybe it's harder to answer that question. So here's what I'd like to give you. This is my cancellation guarantee, and what it says is this. Every day that I'm helping you, I want you to consider, am I doing the job you anticipated me doing? Or am I exceeding your expectations? Because if I'm not, this cancellation guarantee says, without penalty at any point in time, you can discontinue our relationship at your will. And there is no consequences to doing that. The onus is 100% on me, not on you. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, no, that's great.
There's nothing you can say to that. Of course it's fair. Yeah. Right? So at a buyer presentation, the trump card, now obviously the idea is this. your presentation should become so good that there are no objections. Right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it.
Yes.
There's no cost to hiring you. There's no cost, certainly in the beginning anyway, when you're first starting it, and they're never obligated to buy a home. So let me get this straight. I'm going to help you search for properties. I'm going to represent you, and you will never pay me, regardless of whether you buy one or whether you don't, which you're not obligated to do. You will never pay me for my services, for my expertise, for everything I'm going to do for you. All I ask in return is for your loyalty. Does that sound fair? And the answer is, of course it does.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
Thanks, Lisa. That's helpful.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you so much.
We have a question from Verlin. It says, how do we really proceed to collect our fees in cases where our clients end up buying a home with another realtor, even after signing with us?
Yeah, you need to consider that, because I got to tell you that in the majority of cases, the reason that you're getting them to sign the contract is because you want them to basically pledge loyalty. You want them to be loyal to you. And just that alone, you'd probably find that 99 times out of 100 means you've got a loyal client. And when they buy a property, they're going to buy the property through you, and you're going to get paid. Now, what you have to consider is this. In the 1 out of 100 instances when that does not happen, what are you going to do about it? You can, absolutely legally, you can, press legally to be paid. You've got a contract. They've hired you. You are entitled. It's cut and dry. If you have an active contract, that other realtor that got paid that commission, or that, I guess this is before that happens, they are not entitled. They do not represent your client. So it's an easy one. I mean, it's cut and dry. You can't, it would be like if you had the property listed and another agent came in and also listed the property after you already had it listed. I mean, it's cut and dry case, right? So what I'm saying is this. You need to figure out whether or not the amount of times that is going to happen justifies you either letting it go or fighting to get paid what you are absolutely entitled to get paid, but happens so infrequently that maybe the effort of doing that isn't justified. But you will be the one that needs to figure that out. And that's the kind of thing, for your broker, to figure out. I mean, let's face it, that is one of the reasons why you pay a broker, to handle that kind of thing. And believe me, the broker wants to get paid, so there's a best interest in it for them to take care of it as well. But, I think what you'll find is this is the very rare exception to the rule, and that the overwhelming majority of times, if you've got a contract, then they're your client, and this is not going to happen. What the client has done is pledged loyalty to you by signing a contract. And any other realtor that works with them, the obligation they have is to ask them, have you signed a contract with another realtor? They say, yes, I have. Well, then I can't help you. And that's how this works 99 times out of 100. So, I think really you're going to have to decide that based on, is this the exception to the rule, and how much are you willing to? But make no mistake, if they signed a contract with you, you are their representative. You are entitled to get paid. And if you really want to fight it, you win. Okay, who's next, Drea?
Our next question comes from John, and he'd like to role play with you. I'm going to go ahead and pull up his line. John, your telephone line is now open. John Lowe?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, John. I can.
James, my question is, I get a lot of sign calls from people who want to see a house either now or tomorrow, and I find it tricky to go through the universal callback script with them, and then the objection I'm coming across is, well, why do we need to meet first? Why don't we just meet at the house? So I was wondering if I could kind of role play that with you.
Okay, so let's start at that point. So, hey, John, in addition to setting up an appointment to take a look at this property here at 123 Maple Street, there very likely are other properties that would interest you and your family, what I can do is I can put together a list of other properties, and if you want to, we can either set up showings to go take a look at them, or if you want, you can just drive by yourself. But I want to do a good job of figuring out what you're actually looking for. When would be a good time for you to sit down with me for 15, 20 minutes, go over what you're looking for? We can set up a time for you to take a look at this property here at 123 Maple Street. It's free. There's no obligation. When would be convenient for you, John? Now,
well, James, I was wondering,
okay, go ahead.
Could we just go by the house at 123 Main Street and see that tomorrow? And then I could, decide what I want to do from there?
Hey, John, my sellers have asked me to meet with all of the buyers that I show their property to, just to make sure that it's the right property that they're looking for. So I really do want to, I want to make sure that my sellers' wishes are observed. So I'll tell you what, though, I'll make it worth your while. When we sit down, we won't just go over the criteria of this property and set up that appointment. I'll make it worth your while. I'll give you a list of all the other great deals and other properties that you might want to drive by and take a look at as well. It's free. There's no obligation. But, yeah, my sellers have asked me to do that. So, I want to respect their wishes. It'll be a very brief appointment. As I said, it's free. There's no obligation. Would you consider a brief time at your convenience, John?
Sure. So James, I get that. I understand. That was very helpful, and thank you for that. What do I do in the event where I feel like someone is a good prospect that I'd like to keep following up with? However, they're not biting. They're pushing back. How do I continue to market to them without actually caving and meeting with them? Because as Craig says, once I do that, I'm done. The cat's out of the bag.
Well, not only that, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter how good they sound. What you have to ask yourself is, when I do it, how often does it lead to them buying the property? And
right.
And the answer is always the same. It's never happened. I'm batting zero. So you have to draw the line, and you have to say, listen, the great thing is you're putting this on the seller. And what you're saying is this: hey, look, if it was me, I'd run over and I'd open the door and show you the property, but I need to respect my seller's wishes. What I'm suggesting is this: in the event that this isn't the perfect property for you, I want to make sure that you have access to other great deals that might be the perfect property. So if you want, I can set up showings to look at them, or I can just give you the list and you can take a look. But if you're going to come and spend 15 minutes with me, I assure you, John, I will make it worth your while so that you've got lots of information moving forward. I will not collect a nickel of money from you. I will not obligate you in any way to buy anything. And you know what? I'm flexible. Are you sure you wouldn't reconsider a brief appointment at your convenience, John, just so that we can do this properly?
Okay, yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. And I have one last question, if you don't mind. How do I politely exit myself from the conversation if this person is just not going to want to do business with me the way that I want to do business? How do I politely get out of it?
Here's what I would say. I would say, okay, look, John, it sounds like you need some more time to consider this, and I get that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you all of the detailed information about this property at 123 Maple Street, and I'm going to send you some additional properties as well, some others that I think may be of interest to you as well. I'm going to pop an email over to you right now, and with your permission, can I follow up with you in a couple of days and see if you'd reconsider taking a look at the property if it looks right? Would that be a fair way of going about this, John?
Sure.
Okay, information's on its way. Check your email inbox in the next half hour. The information will be sent there. And is it okay if I follow up with you in a couple of days? What would be the best number to call you at, John?
So 813-123-456.
Right. That sounds like a fake phone number, John.
So, James, that's very helpful. Thank you. And since this is being recorded, I can download it and I can listen to it again just to really get it ingrained in my mind. But I do come across.
And one other little detail here. This is important. You have to make sure that you have this conversation with the seller at the time of listing. Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. I'm going to get buyers that are calling. Maybe they're nosy neighbors. Maybe they're serious. Maybe they're not. The overwhelming majority of the buyers that come and look at the property obviously aren't going to buy it because there's only one buyer that's going to buy your home. I don't want to be kicking you out of your house for every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's nosy and wants to come take a look at property. So with your permission, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I'd like to do is I'd like to require the buyers that call to meet with me so that I can take down what they're looking for. I can make sure they're financially qualified to buy your home. Before I kick you out in the middle of the day or the middle of the night, I want to make sure that they are a viable, serious buyer who represents a prospective purchaser of your property. With your permission, can I do that, please? What do you think they say to that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
They don't just say you can do it. They say we want you to do that. Now I get to say for any buyer that calls me, I get to say, hey man, my buyers requested that I meet with you first. I want to respect their wishes. I won't bite you. I promise you. I do not bite. I won't charge you any money. There's all kinds of upside. You know, would you reconsider a brief appointment? We can do it now. We can set it up for later today or tomorrow at your convenience. You know, it makes it much more reasonable. And you know, the truth is this: any buyer that says no, I only want to look at this property and I need you to drive over here right now, you know, the truth is they're not somebody that you really want to spend your time with, because in your experience and ours and everybody else's, it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah, other
than the humiliation of you driving all the way over there and then driving home realizing you've completely wasted your time.
Right, I agree. I do have a separate challenge because I have several REO properties, but I'll have to figure that out on my own on how to handle that and try and be as efficient as possible. But I do feel in the back of my mind, if someone really pushes me hard, I have an obligation.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is the thing. At the end of the day, if you're going to do this, okay, if you're going to say, you know what, this time I'm going to do this, make sure that it's the exception to the rule. In other words, if you said, hey, look, you know what, 19 times out of 20, I'm going to require you to come and meet with me. If you're a serious buyer, any serious buyer would want to know about all the properties, not one. So if you say, no, I just want to know about one, it tells me you're not a serious buyer, so I don't want you. But on the 1 out of 20 occasion where for some reason, you know, this person, you know, says, hey, you know what, we're just in town, I've been transferred here, and I'm on my way to the airport to go back home. We came here for the weekend looking for a property, and I just saw, you know, this property looks awesome, but you know, we're really kind of rushing here. We got a flight at 3 o'clock. You know, can I bother you to show us the property? And you're like, you know what? Maybe you maybe say that time. Okay. Right? Yeah. I mean, but the bottom line is, but make sure it's the exception, not the rule.
Yep. Yeah, I understand. That was very helpful. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, our next question. If someone wants to see one of the properties I send them, how can I justify giving them the buyer's presentation when all they want to see is just the one property?
Okay, do that one more time, Andrea.
No problem. If someone wants to see one of the properties I send them, how can I justify giving them the buyer's presentation when all they want to see is just that one property?
Well, because any buyer that would just want to see one property probably isn't a very serious buyer. Like, I mean, obviously you can articulate the benefit of having access to many properties than just one. How about this, okay? Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, do you know that it's highly likely that the perfect property for you, the one that you are actually going to purchase, and the property that is going to become your dream home that you're looking for, do you know that right now today, that property, it's highly likely is not for sale on the market right now today, but it's going to be. Now here's the trick. When that property comes on the market, it is critical that you are among the very first buyers in the marketplace aware that your dream home has just become available for sale on the market. If you do not know about it, it means other buyers do, and by the time you are notified of or find this property, it's already sold, which is not helpful to you. So here's what I propose. We can take a look at this and any property that's currently for sale that you'd like, but I want to set you up so that every day you receive the great deals as they come on the market that perfectly match what you and your family are looking for. It's free. You're not obligated to buy any of them. Are you certain that wouldn't be something of interest to you? If you say no to that, what you're saying is this: I'm not serious. I'm not serious. So now you have to figure out, okay, would you like to meet with somebody who isn't serious? And if that's the case, what you're basically saying is this: well, okay, if you're not interested in that, that's fine, but I need to respect the wishes of my seller, and I need to meet with you before I set up a showing to take a look at their property. When's a good time for you? Days, evenings, weekends? And you set up the time. All right, Andrea, who's next?
Okay, our next question from Renee. Can you please tell me why you recommend a minimum of 5,000 direct mailing at a time? Also, if I choose the area that sells the most, what should I expect as a return?
All right, well, that 5,000 number, here's where the 5,000 number, when we're talking about direct mail, here's where it comes in. Whatever results you get from 5,000 is pretty consistent. In other words, it's going to give you a good gauge on what kind of response you might get. Like you might get 0.5% requests for evaluations if you were to do a non-branded postcard. Okay, that would be pretty good. Yeah, 0.5%. You send out 5,000, it'd be pretty consistent. Now, here's the problem. Could you send out a smaller number? Well, sure you could, but the numbers wouldn't be as consistent. In other words, you might send out 1,000, and one time you might get 10, and the next time you might get 1. Because it's a smaller sampling, it's less consistent across the board. But let me suggest this. If I was speaking with any of our coaching students and they said, I can't send 5,000, but I could afford to do 1,500, then I would say, you should send out 1,500, because doing anything is better than not doing anything, right? So obviously, if you said, I can afford a $5 a day pay-per-click budget, okay, well, then yes, that would be better than not doing it and having a $0 a day pay-per-click budget. So what 5,000 is ideal, but if what we're talking about is, or I can do nothing, either that or nothing. Well, no, there is an in-between. We can look at a middle number. All we're suggesting is, you know what? It's probably not going to be a consistent response the smaller the sampling that you send. That's all. All right, Andrea, let's take one more for this morning, and then we'll talk to everybody again on the role play session on Thursday.
That's right. We actually have some other sessions throughout the week, so please check the webinar schedule on the coaching site for your individual training sessions. This question coincides with something we have going on this weekend. It's, we are new to the business. Please advise if there is a listing presentation we can use for starters. And this Wednesday, we actually have at 4 o'clock Eastern Time our ultimate listing presentation training with Craig. So please join us. If you do not get an invitation for that, since you are a new member, please email me, Andrea@craigproctor.com, and I'll make sure you get invited to the specific webinars you need.
Awesome. Andrea, thank you so much. You are amazing. And thanks, everybody, for participating on our helpline session here this morning. We'll see you guys all on Thursday. Craig is going to be on. We're going to do role playing. And you can come on and throw your best objections and whatever it is that you're working on. And we'll show you how good you can become. And we've got some of you students who can demonstrate just how good you can be with the Universal Script as well. So that's on Thursday. And then, of course, Friday is our ad clinic session. So make sure you send us your ads, whatever it is that you're doing, working well, not working well, whatever. Send them in, and we'll select a whole bunch. We'll go through them, and before you know it, you'll know the words that are going to come out of our mouth before they do. Thank you, guys, and Andrea, thanks for your help as well.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Talk to you all very soon. Have a wonderful week ahead. This officially ends the webinar for today.